How can we describe your music? Because it's a little bit of grindcore mixed with morbid lyrics.
Yeah, I guess you could. We don't really have a name for it though. We just play what we play.
Heavy metal, really.
It's a little bit heavier, I think.
That's right. That's the intention. I mean, but there are a lot of twisted heavy metal riffs in there. There's there's things that sound more like a fusion band or whatever. There's bits of everything. But yeah, I mean, it is extremely heavy, and so some people want to call it death metal or grindcore or whatever. Yeah. So we don't really want to get into labels because it restricts you. Because I mean, can you think of any label that's lasted more than a year or so? Maybe 2 years ago, hardcore was the most cool label to have. Now it seems to be grindcore or death metal, but I don't know how long that'll last. And we've never been hardcore and we've never been death metal. Maybe we're somewhere in between. I don't know.
When you formed in, I don't know again. When was it?
Well, properly in early '87, but the name and the lyrics and some of the riffs go back to like 1985 when me and Ken tried to form a band at school, but that fell apart straight away, really. So the first chance we got to do Carcass properly was early '87.
Yes, when you formed them, was there what was the climate like for grindcore and death metal in England?
Really wasn't any.
It was mainly hardcore. There was bands like Heresy, Ripcord around.
For some reason we got lumped in the same sort of label as that category, and we didn't deny it, but we never were.
It was the extremity of it because all these bands were playing really fast and everything at the time, and they had crazy vocals, so it kind of met halfway. We were coming more from the death thrash and whatever metal area, and they were coming from the hardcore punk thing. But obviously it was bound to meet and cross over somewhere in the middle. So that happened, but then now things are going in the other direction. Bands like us are, developing whatever. I mean, we're getting heavier, but we're also getting a little bit more melodical in places. And those bands like Heresy and Doom and all that, they're going, well, Heresy has split up, but bands like Doom and so on, they're, to be honest, regressing really. They're just going back to the music they listened to in '82. They're just trying to emulate stuff that was perfected, in the early '80s by bands overseas.
And has it changed a lot? How is it at this time in England?
It's like I said, it's confusing because the hardcore metal thing is kind of drifting apart now. But there's a bigger audience now, isn't there?
Definitely. There's the audience is a lot younger. The average is 15, isn't it? Who buys earache stuff, something like that.
Well, that's what they claim, but
something like that. But there's a hell of a lot of bands out now in Britain that are trying to do the Metallica sort of thing, and they don't really seem to realise that they're not as good, and they never will be. But there's a lot of turnout at the gigs now. It's we can probably pull about how many about 200 a gig.
In a good part of England, yeah, maybe 300 or something. It depends. But yeah, I mean there is an increasing audience for it. But say in November we did this ridiculous attempt at a tour with I don't know, Morbid Angel and Bolt Thrower and Napalm Death. And some of those venues, the crowd was trying to get into it, but you got the impression that, at one or two places, most of the crowd hadn't heard anything heavier than Anthrax. So it was a bit disorientating going on stage, knowing they hadn't got a clue what we were trying to do.
Well, we got a clue what we're trying to do in Girls' Day.
Well, yeah, that's true. So,
yeah. Was this the first time in the Netherlands?
This is the second gig we've done. Yeah, the first was yesterday.
Yes, but it's the
it's the first time we've been here, yeah.
And are you planning to come to Belgium?
Yeah, well, someone's arranged a gig for us, and we can't remember whether it's late June or early July, but it's around that time. And in Aalst, I think.
Death and doom metal has really become big business. Do you think it will continue to grow?
Well, I hope so for our sake. But it's really hard to predict things like that. One thing I hope does happen is that people start to realise that not everyone who plays fast and heavy and has crazy vocals is necessarily good, because those are kind of the more superficial aspects of this style of music. I mean, believe it or not, the quality of the songwriting does come into it. And, not that we think we're better than everyone else or anything, but we do at least, we know for a fact that we spend a little more time on our songs than some people who are more concerned with, this is fast now, so we've got to have a slow bit later on, and we spend a bit longer kind of structuring things. But I don't know. we'll see. But like I said, right now in England, I mean, most of the people writing for the music press, they just don't seem to know the difference between like a band that's put a bit of thought into it and a band that's just going on stage and thrashing out a noise, really.
Aren't you afraid that the market of that sort of music is getting overloaded with bands who sound similar to each other?
That's inevitable, really. It's so easy to get on vinyl now that it's bound to happen.
Well, it's fair enough if some kids are into the music and want to have a go at it, but really, you've got to realise whether they're any good or not. But we started out doing the same sort of thing. Right. We were like just kids having fun to begin with. That in '85, and now we take it a lot more seriously, especially the musical aspect. That's what they think.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got 2 records out now on Earache. Yeah. Are you planning to stay with them?
Well, everyone seems to ask us this.
No, certainly not.
We're starting to Def Jam next week.
We haven't decided anything. We haven't even discussed it between the 3 of us properly. So anything could happen. But we're thinking about it. When we do discuss it, we'll be thinking about it very carefully because we're not really totally happy with the way things have gone so far.
Well, we just had a massive contract through the post, and it's for 4 albums, and we're certainly not happy with that because I don't think we'd like to sign for 4 albums with any label, let alone Earache. Seeing as Earache itself is being overloaded with bands, it's got 10, 11 bands signed to it, and the ones that are recently signed are getting such a bad deal. We get a bad deal, and we're supposed to be like number 3 on the list. We've had about 1/8 of what we're owed, and we can't really see getting much more unless we really, really push for it. So we'll have to think carefully about any offer that comes our way. But on the other hand, like Earache is regarded as being a pretty decent label for decent bands, and there's no other label in England especially that could probably deal with us.
Which label are you thinking of?
Well, there's none really.
There isn't one label we're thinking of, but we are thinking still about whether we should jump into another contract because 4 albums is a long time, and
it's about 5 years for us now.
And it's an incredibly long time if you think about how much money we're not going to get and how much trouble we'll have.
Do you think about Nuclear Blast certification is on?
I don't really know much about Nuclear Blast at all, but I don't think I'd ever go on it. I don't think I'd go on that label. No, I really don't think so.
The labels in Britain that kind of deal with, used to deal with Slammer, for instance, but don't anymore. We wouldn't be able to do what we wanted. There would be we'd have no say in what the titles of the LP would be or the cover. It'd just be not worth doing.
So they'd really have to name a pretty high fee.
At least $500.
It's a big myth. It's actually theory. A decent record label, it just isn't it? It's like, one guy thinks he runs EMI and doesn't. He's not got a clue about business, but he likes to think he's top styling businessman. And
but still we love him, nevertheless.
No, we don't.
If he's really nice, we do.
Now,
no, we don't. No, we don't have
I don't know whether
it's not tough with negotiations.
It is, it's very tough, but we don't know anyone who can do it. And Earache, Dick thinks he's our manager, but he isn't. He doesn't do anything, so...
Now a few questions about your lyrics.
Yeah.
You all write them together.
No, mainly Jeff now at the moment. Jeff does virtual.
Jeff and you.
No, not even. I mean, I did maybe a few on the first album, and I did 3/4 or a half of one song on the second album.
Jeff is involved.
Yeah. Well, I go Jeff.
Go on, Jack.
Where do you get the inspiration from?
I think it's his girlfriend.
You have to got a very sick mind to write such morbid lyrics.
That's the big joke. It's like it feels itself. You just sort of look at what we've done in the past and just take it a bit further. I mean, I don't think I'm sick. I've got a sick sense of humour. That's all.
Well, once you've got the concept, the lyrics come quite easy.
I mean, nothing really offends me, so I know no boundaries of taste.
Yeah, it's all personal, isn't it? Some things will offend one person and be totally humorous to another. It's not to say it's bad or it shouldn't be done at all.
You always have very long titles, like for example, Swarming Vulgar Mass of Infected Virulency or Cadaveric Incubator of Endoparasites, and you always use difficult words. Well, for me it is. Why? Why?
I don't know, just
Well, it's
different.
It's the only title that kind of sums the whole.
It's a joke, really.
Yeah.
You know, very long, extreme lyrics, extreme, long-winded titles.
Yeah, there's a lot of metaphor words that go into the song itself, and there's many concepts twisted around in the song. So you've got to use a long title to describe what the whole song's about. Really.
I mean, the words are there. You might as well use them. There's, even English people with their own language, they use less than a tenth of all the words that are open to them. It's just the same old words coming up time and time again. And so,
Especially with these Americans coming in and spoiling our language.
he's just joking, honestly.
Where do you get the difficult words? From a medical dictionary or?
Half of them. Yeah, half of them made up.
Well, nowadays, you bloody merge words, don't you?
Yeah. That's a new thing. We're merging words together, so they don't mean anything whatsoever. It's just like the lyrics are just composed in the same way the music is. I mean, at the time, the music doesn't make sense, and at the time, the lyrics don't make sense. It's just the way we work.
You're doing what you're doing to your fans. They all run with T-shirts and I reek of classification. And 90% don't know what it's doing.
Yeah, that's right.
T-shirt.
Private joke. Even in England, they don't know what it means. They don't care.
Nowadays, there's quite a lot of bands trying to copy what we do, just totally rip off whole lyrics. So we've got to do something different. So merging words.
Keep merging.
I'd say we've got to keep expanding because, really, I mean, obviously there's a danger that someone will, catch up with us, or people will think they're catching up with them. We just want to keep on doing something that's a little bit unique. I mean, we can't pretend that we're totally original, but we're always trying to do something a little different.
Maybe you can do something with hieroglyphs.
With what?
Hieroglyphs. The other side.
Oh yeah, maybe we should see.
Yeah, well, we have lots of influences from music, and we all do our own thing, so it all comes together when we all get together and play music together. That's why some people might say we're unique in some way, but
yeah, that's one thing you could say about the band. I mean, not that I know about everything that goes on in other bands, but from what I've seen and heard and everything, in some bands it's like there's kind of one or two main people who just totally run everything, and whereas with
this band we just have one person.
and with this band it's a bit more democratic. I mean, on the first album it was like everything was divided roughly into three. A third of the lyrics were done each, and a third of the music was done each, very roughly. Now it's more like me and Ken do the music, Jeff does the lyrics. It's split up a bit more like that, but it's still like the work is shared fairly evenly, really.
Well, I have some titles here with me. Can you help me to explain them? Well, first, excoriating abdominal emanation.
It's songs about, about.
You have to have a dictionary.
The song is about someone giving enemas, but in an extreme, violent manner. Really, the title, excoriating means to clean. Abdominal means
relating to the abdomen.
Yeah, abdomen, part of the body, and emanation means it's just the verb to give an enema. So basically, just saying giving a violent enema.
I mean, putting it really simply, it's more or less about someone who gets sadistic pleasure from inserting a tube into a victim's rectum and flushing water down it. That's more or less what it is.
Now it's getting
Now,
worse than we thought.
Empathological necrotism.
Well, empathological is two words crossed together. Empathy, which means having the feeling that you want to be in the position of, and pathological as in pathology, that is medicine or to do with the dead. Yeah. So the two what that means is necroticism means necrotic as in something which is dead, and eroticism as in sexual art or whatever. So basically, it's like the song's about a person having the song's like as if whoever's singing it would like to be in the shoes of a mortician or something, but
get sexual pleasure out of it.
Yeah, but it's not like that. it's not that real.
Mucopurulence excretor.
That's mucopurulence is a mixture of mucus out of your nose, and purulence as in pus out of a septic wound. Excretor is to shit. So it's to shit.
It could be anything. Could be excrement, could be perspiration, could be urine. Yeah.
And microwave utero gestation.
It's to microwave someone who's pregnant. That's what it means. Gestation just means conception outside the uterus, I think. Something like that. So it's just about microwaving a pregnant person. Could be male, they can do wonders with science nowadays.
So that's the thing is, we always see what's modern in biology, and we always try and stay away from anything that could be seen as being or conceived as being sexist. So we always relate it to men.
No, it's like victimising anyone. But that was the whole point of that song, Accelerating Abdominal Emanation. It's a sort of if you like, I mean, some bands that seem to sing, although they don't say it in so many words, but they're actually singing about rape and they're condoning it. So what our song is about really is rape in an asexual way. It's meant to, it's meant to make men feel uncomfortable just as much as women. Sort of thing about rape and maybe make them think about it a bit more. But I don't think anyone understands lyrics anyway. So
that's the thing nowadays. People.
But we don't take it that seriously as to think that we're going out to change people's minds about it. It's just
nowadays, we're including ecological aspects, just anything that we think.
Yeah, we've got a song about using the ashes from a crematorium to grow cash crops.
Using humans as fertilizer.
Then one more manifestation of varicose urethra.
It just means the appearance of varicose veins, as in extreme veins only on the urine passage. It's so it doesn't mean anything.
About wetting the bed, really.
Is there then a kind of message in your lyrics, or is it just morbid things?
No, there isn't. I mean, when the lyrics are written, like some of the things I do nowadays, I don't seriously think for a minute that anyone is going to read it and be able to interpret it. And no, I don't think for 1 minute anyone's going to interpret what I'm putting into it. It's very personal. I mean, there is some sort of twisted logic behind the lyrics, but I think it's so obscure that people will never. But then again, if someone is really intelligent, really intelligent, maybe they can. Psychologists could, make sense of it. I don't know.
Some of the songs, because we're all vegetarian, we don't like killing of animals for food, and we kind of we twist it into imagine killing humans for food, and there is something behind that, really. Because why not? Because humans are the perfect meal for another human. You've got all the essential amino acids you need. You've got all the vitamins. Why not eat humans? I don't understand that, really.
Philosophy of Carcass.
Yeah. Then go to Bill. Can you tell one more time what is the exact reason why you left Nepal? One more time.
Well, okay, for the 50th time in 2 days. It was just, I couldn't get on with the other guys in the band, really, and neither could Lee, the vocalist. We just had enough of Shane and Mick, really, to be blunt. Every time he says it, he gets it further. They can be good fun at times. They can be, Mick at times is one of the funniest people I've known, but at other times, I'd just rather be a million miles away from him because he does a lot of embarrassing things. So, it just wasn't a chemistry that was working. So I was better off in Carcass, really.
And he left for the same reason.
Exactly the same reason, yeah.
Then are there any new bands that you see as real standouts?
Carcass, though.
No,
the Lee Dorian project.
Well, yeah, there's quite a few. There's Entombed from Sweden, who we all really like their stuff. There's a band called Sam Blackchurch from the States. Musically, that's what you might call death metal or grindcore or whatever, pretty heavy and fast. But the vocals are similar to, say, the Bad Brains, so it's really, kind of off the wall. There's also a band from Norway called Cadaver, and that's like really, you know, crazy death metal, but some really sick riffs. You know, it's like, you know, people say it sounds similar to us, but I think it's quite different, and they've got some Voivod influences as well.
Do you know Xisma?
Zeisma, yeah. Well, I don't know how to pronounce it.
They try to imitate Carcass.
Yeah, you've got the demo, haven't you? Zeisma or Xisma or whatever.
Oh, yeah, from Finland.
Yeah. That's quite good. Yeah.
Hijack from London are good. They're a good hip hop band there.
Yeah, there's, you know, lots of stuff. Dry Ice from my hometown, a band called Dry Ice. They're quite entertaining. And also Carnage from Sweden. You know, they've just recorded an album, which
just happens
to be on Jeff and my label. But yeah, it's really good, honestly. It's
what's the name of your label?
Necrosis Records.
What are your plans for the future? Maybe a third record this year or
No, we don't plan ahead.
We can't really. It's just not. It's not realistic because you know, we have a lot of things. It's 6:30 according to mine.
7:30. No, 6:30. The small dance past the 6.
yeah.
It is 6:30. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, we want to record the third album later this year sometime, but I don't think it'll be out until early next year. It'd be nice to release it earlier, but there's no point rushing the songs because you know, this is important to us. We want to get it as perfect as we can, you know, and so we're just going to record when we're ready. You know, the songs are taking a while to put together, so maybe we'll be ready by the winter sometime, hopefully.
Maybe you could say one last word to the listeners in Antwerp.
Hello.
Now, we'll see you on the tour if you come to our gig, but if you don't, then we won't, will we?
Yeah, thanks to anyone who bought the album, you know. Not that it's really done us any good, but
there's plenty more to buy, and write to Earache Records and just say
send them razor blades and shit.
Write to Earache Records and just say please pay Carcass because it's one of the best bands in the world and they owed lots of money. Basically, thanks.
Okay, thank you. At the end of '91 you brought out on the third release on Earache Necroticism, Discounting the Insalubrious. What do you want to explain with this title?
Well, the title is actually two titles in one, really.
Yeah.
Necroticism came from Jeff, and Descanting the Insalubrious came from Ken. We couldn't agree on the title, so we put both of them together.
They don't mean anything?
Well, separately they do. I mean, Jeff has his own idea of what necroticism means, and Descanting the Insalubrious kind of means harmonising with the unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. This third release is more progressive than the previous ones. Do you think it is because you put all things in it what you have learned through the years?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, we didn't just take an interest in music in like the mid '80s when the thrash thing was going. I mean, we've all been into it a lot longer than that. Certainly, myself and Ken, we got into music, say, late '70s, early '80s. That was when we first took an interest in it, and the first kind of music we really got into was heavy metal.
Yeah.
So I suppose that kind of shows itself. I mean, that's always been a part of our playing to some degree, but it's started coming out more in the newer music, just because we're wanting to branch out. We hear other bands doing what we did 2 years ago, and we want to avoid that.
Mm-hmm. So, in what way you want to progress further?
Well, I can't really specify because we just go where the music takes us, really. We don't sit down and plan it. On the other hand, I mean, I have a good idea of what the new material will sound like, because, I mean, between myself, Ken and Mike, we have enough for a new album, easily.
Yeah.
In fact, 2 or 3 songs are already finished.
Oh.
And all I can say is it takes off where Necroticism finished, really. All we're doing is learning more and more about how to write songs that we consider interesting. And the 2 songs that are completely finished so far are very aggressive, and to me they're better than anything we've done so far.
Mm-hmm. Is it hard to be in the music business?
Well, we're only on the outside of it, really, you know, on the edge of things. So it's difficult for me to say properly, but yeah, I mean, I hate the whole business completely myself. I mean, everything from arriving at venues and meeting extremely rude people who work there who have no respect for you, through to, you know, just things like, you know, I mean, I still enjoy doing interviews, but some of them are very repetitive, and that can be a drag sometimes. On the other hand, you just have to accept it. It's part of the job. I mean, I can't think of any job that's completely perfect. The point is, we still enjoy playing music, and that's why we carry on.
What have you learned from it through the years?
I don't know, actually. I mean, I feel I have learned a lot. I can't really articulate it in words yet, but I've definitely learned a lot of things about myself and about other people.
You've gained a lot of fans through the years, and you've probably lost some of the early days. Is it a big loss?
I don't think so, because I mean, if all the people who are claiming that they were into us early on have really gone off us and everything, then obviously we sold a lot more records than I thought. I mean, I think there are a lot of people saying, "Oh, I prefer the early stuff," who really weren't into it when it came out. I mean, they're busy listening to Anthrax or something. Now they live for death metal, and they think that's the be all and end all of the world, really. So it doesn't really perturb us too much. I mean, we just get on with what we do. I mean, it's inevitable that some people will want you to just repeat the same music time and time again.
You say that your lyrics are more horrible reality.
Yeah, I guess they are. That was the intention early on, but they're branching out just like the music, really. I mean, when you see the lyrics for the newer songs, I think you could be quite surprised, because the language is still pretty graphic, pretty complex, and the overall effect of the lyrics is rather obscure. But the actual subject matter is pretty different for Carcass.
What is so real about butchery?
What is so real about it? That is one song that is not real.
Yeah, I thought of it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Pedigree Paul, the dog food.
That's where you got the idea from,
yeah.
That is definitely one of the more kind of fantasy-orientated lyrics,
You just finished the God of Grind tour.
Yeah.
How was it?
Overall, it's been very good. Better than we expected. It's been a real struggle trying to get all 4 bands prepared for this. Each day, it's like everyone's got to get sound checked, everyone's got to get on stage on time, the equipment's got to come off and on at the right times. It's really difficult. I mean, after this, playing on 2 band bills will be a hell of a lot easier, and you really begin to appreciate it. Tonight was actually the worst night for me. I mean, I had absolutely no energy because I hadn't eaten anything apart from some chocolate. But most of the gigs have been good.
Did you get along very good with the other bands?
Yes, we did. There was no rivalry or anything like that.
Because Confessor left earlier today.
Yeah, they had to catch a plane tonight. But they were really nice, easygoing guys.
Yeah. I saw your video clip on MTV, Headbangers Ball. So it was brilliant. Was it a happy experience to do this?
Well, I think I can speak for the whole band really when I say that we found the whole day shooting the video completely depressing. I mean, we hated it. The guy there had absolutely no respect for our ideas or our wishes, and it was really difficult to work with. So we only had half a day, and we had to try and cooperate with him to a point. I mean, there were certain things we refused to do, but anyway, the end result is a video that is so weird that some people like it, but personally, I hate it, and I think everyone else in the band does too.
So you don't like it, the video clip? Oh, I think it's brilliant. So.
Thanks. Well, a few people have said that.
Yeah.
And I think they think it's different, and it certainly is, but it isn't really quite what we wanted.
Who's under the black plastic?
Jeff.
Jeff. Yeah. I couldn't see it. Is your album for sale in America?
Yes, it is. It came out a few weeks ago. Yeah.
It's later than in Europe.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you have a lot of fans over there?
Yeah, it seems like we do. I mean, the first time we realised this was like when we went over to support Death. Our Symphonies of Sickness album wasn't actually released over there, but there were a hell of a lot of people who had it on tape or whatever, or bought it on import. And so we got over there and we sold loads of shirts, and there was loads of people who already had shirts in the first place, and generally went down really, really well. So that was when we first realised that we had some kind of following there. And then with this new album, it's been selling a lot better than anyone expected, so I think it's looking like a good place for us really, the States.
so you get bigger and bigger each year.
Well, yeah, but it's all relative. I mean, I think all of us are feeling a little impatient. We'd like things to happen a little bit quicker. On the other hand, we can't expect too much because this isn't exactly a commercial form of music.
But you said in the interview on Headbangers Ball that you don't want to be labelled as a death metal band, but that you are a heavy metal band for the 90s.
Well, that's what Jeff said. I mean, I don't see us as a heavy metal band necessarily. I mean, if you want to simplify it, yes, we are heavy metal taken to its logical extreme. But I try not to think of us as anything. We're just a band and we get on with what we do.
No.
I mean, I'm reluctant to label it because I'm worried that it might alienate some people. Our roots are definitely in metal though. I mean, we can't deny that.
Okay, thank you for this interview, and we hope to see you next time, maybe this year? Or?
Yeah, well, as far as I know, we're definitely returning to the sort of Benelux region for one gig. We're doing the Cheese Festival or something like that in
Holland.
Yeah, so that's not definite, but it seems likely. And maybe we'll be back some other time. But I hope we play Belgium again fairly soon, because I'd like to do something a bit better than we did tonight. Tonight was a bit of a mess, really. Everyone was really tired, and
Why didn't you play it in France?
that wasn't our decision actually. It was EREG. They arranged the tour, and they had this idea that it should be very restricted and only in certain places. So we ended up only playing a handful of countries, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and Austria. Oh, and 3 dates in England too. So a lot of other places were left out, and I think that's pretty bad. So we're going over to France ourselves later on.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.